Welcome to episode 7 of the Mile 62 podcast. I'm your host, Richard Elkins, coming to you from Austin, Texas. We cover all things ultra running in the southern United States. Today I want to go over some ultra running news from the weekend. It was an exciting weekend with some big events. I'm also going to go over some marathon news. I realize this is a trail running podcast, but there was some big news over the weekend and marathon running, and a lot of us come from that background. I plan to do a technical review on the men's max compression shorts from XoSkin. I just got a new pair in and done some running in them. I'd like to do a technical review on that. And then also I'm going to touch on my preparation for Javelina 100, which is coming up in 2 weeks. Okay, let's get started. First up, I'd like to talk about some ultra running news over the weekend. As many of you know, the big 200, the Moab 240, which is put on by Destination Trails and the Moab desert, started on Friday, and usually goes for 4 days. And there was some big news. I was following it, Rob Seeger's adventure. He's been going for the Triple Crown of 200s, and when I was tracking him, I noticed that Candace posted on Instagram that one runner had gone off trail, and not just gone off trail, but gone off trail maybe 5 or 6 miles. And I looked in the registration list, and that was David Goggins, and that you know. Everybody knows who David Goggins is. If you don't, you need to check out his videos on YouTube. David Goggins was trained as an Army Ranger and also a Navy SEAL. Just an all-around endurance badass. He at one time held the world record for the most pull-ups, and he went for that record, I think, 2 or 3 times. He trained himself to run the Badwater 120, and had to run several ultras to get qualified. There's a long story in his book and in YouTube videos about his challenges. He finally got into it and ended up placing well. I think he ran Badwater 3 times, and just a load of other ultras, and he just become a internet phenomenon about his endurance and his motivation videos. I follow him on several social medias. Well, anyways, I knew he was in the event because Destination Trails posted a picture of him before the race started. But when I noticed that he was off trail, that kind of got exciting. Here's a guy that's probably the biggest badass in the whole race, is off trail for 5 miles. And the initial reports were that somebody had vandalized the course markers, and that's what caused him to go off trail. And when he did go off trail, he was in second place. He was in a distant second place behind Michael McKnight. He's the guy that wins all of these events, and I don't think he was a threat to Mike, the whole race. But to be in second place in this race, that's a big deal. And he kind of went off. Everything kind of went off radar for a while, and then I was kind of thinking that he was probably going to DNF because the marker on the tracking website wasn't moving. And then finally, I posted on the Instagram asking Destination Trails team if he's in the race or not, and they replied that yes, he is. And then later on Saturday, a David Goggins support team had a page on Instagram, and they chimed in and said, yes, he's back in the race. Well, when I got up on Sunday morning, I checked into it, and I noticed that he had DNF'd in the race. And what had happened was he got back in the race, and he was he was in 75th place. Imagine this, going 5-6 miles off course and then making your way back. They said he went 15 miles off course, but I think what they're saying is he went 7.5 miles off course and then came back. So he ran an extra 15 miles. Well, when he got back on track, back on the course, he was in 75th place. They say he made his way all the way back up to 9th place before he started having some altitude issues with his heart. I forget the technical name for that, but he basically they had to take him to a hospital, and I think they determined he was okay, but the doctor said that he shouldn't race for 2 weeks. Well, I think they wanted to get back in the race, but Candace and the team said that wasn't possible. So he had to DNF around, I think it was around mile 200. But that's amazing, going off course so much and just having the mental strength to get back in the race. Most people would either quit or maybe stick it out for a finish. He was trying to win the race again. He made it all the way back up to 9th place. It's amazing. Anyways, that was big news over the weekend. It was pretty exciting to follow him. As I mentioned before, I was following Training for Ultra. He also goes. His name is Robert Sigger. Most people know him by Training for Ultra. He completed the Moab 240. I think it was Monday night, and he was he was put together a charity for pediatric cancer, which he was calling a 401k for pediatric cancer. So what he was doing was he's going to run the Moab 240, and to get to 401k, I believe he needed to run about another extra 10 miles at the end of the course. Well, he's been working on this for several months, and I donated some money early on, and the number was pretty low, but I checked it 2 days ago, and he's already raised $28,000, which is just phenomenal. And this is all going to pediatric cancer. It's a very special type of pediatric cancer for a young girl in Denver that they're going to donate to. His employer, Empower Retirement, is matching up to $5,000. So, anyways, I'll put a link in the show notes to the Texas Children's .org site if you'd like to donate any money. I mean, $5, $10, anything would help. But I think it's a great charity, and he's done a great job. So he's finished the Bigfoot 200, the Tahoe 200, and now the Moab 240. And he's completed the Triple Crown. And for Moab, he had tied in this 401k for pediatric cancer. Great charity, good job. And like I said, I'll put a link in the show notes. Some other things, ultra running news. I listened, heard on another podcast about Treeline Journal. I suggest you check it out. It's a website that's been started by Chase and Nikki Parnell. I believe they live in Oregon. Chase is an accomplished ultra runner, working as a divorce lawyer for many years, got tired of working in the legal profession, and now in September, him and his wife have decided to work on this passion of theirs, basically doing media for running, writing stories and following the ultra scene, doing statistics on, rankings for the Ultra Trail World Tour. They wrote a really nice article about Paul Capel. I hope I'm not butchering his name. He's a Spanish runner that won UTMB. They researched a bunch of Spanish websites about him, articles about him, and put together their own article. They're writing about people that in our running scene that probably most people don't know too much about because they're just not in the frontline media like some of the runners here at home. And it hit it home for me because I thought it was a very interesting article, and it's also something I plan to do. Like I mentioned in my first podcast, I plan to interview some Chinese ultra runners, some elites. in my podcast, I plan to interview mainly mid pack and back of the pack runners, their stories, and also do race reports. But there will be an occasional elite athlete, and I plan to focus on some of these areas which are not being reported. China being one of them. Why? Because I know China very well. I speak Mandarin. I lived there 10 years. Still have a house in West China in the Chengdu area, which puts on a lot of ultra races. Most of the ultra running scene is in Hong Kong, and a lot of the elite runners come from the Yunnan province and southwestern China. And I think there's some exciting stories probably to come from there. As you know, following the race results this year in the Hong Kong races, the locals cannot be beat, with the only exception of Jim Walmsley going there and beating everybody in Hong Kong. A lot of foreign racers, whether they be from Europe or USA, are getting beaten by the local runners in China. And now you've got Miss Miao, which went to UTMB. She led the female race for about half the race before she ran into problems, and Courtney DeWalter had passed her. But the Chinese runners are really coming on strong onto the scene, and I think there's a lot of stories there. So I plan to cover some of those in the upcoming months. I have the opportunity to go to China a lot with my job. I'm in purchasing, and having known, it's like a second home to me. So I plan to bring those stories to my podcast. So I suggest you check out the TreelineJournal.com. It's pretty interesting, and for me, it's kind of like the morning shakeout by Mario Fraioli in road running. Mario doesn't cover too much trail running, even though he coaches a lot of trail running athletes. But the Treeline Journal is focused on ultra running. It's kind of neat. I don't know of anything else out there like that, but I suggest you check it out. Other thing I was thinking about over the weekend is Chris Mako. I'm a big fan of Chris Mako, C-Money. The Mako show hadn't been on for a while. The last Mako show was covering his Vancouver race. I think he won the 50 mile there. I forget the name of that ultra there, but kind of wondering what's up with him. Also, I mentioned earlier, getting ready for Javelina 100. I ran it last year. I made it through 82 miles and ran into some lower back issues, which I touched on before on previous podcasts. I attributed to my salt balance was incorrect. I think I actually took in too much salt, kind of like what Hayden Hawks has talked about recently. So I think I've got a control on, managing my salt intake a little bit better. Also, I'm not carrying bottles like I did last year. I had bottles in the front. I was wearing a UD pack with flask in the front of my pack, and also carrying 2 bottles, kind of the Jim Walmsley way, but he's out there running 14 15 hours in 100. I'm going to be out there most of the 30 hours. Well, 22 23 hours into the race, I started having some lower back issues, and I'm thinking that I was carrying too much weight up front. Well, this year I've changed things. I started using a UD pack with a 2 liter pack in the back. So, and I plan to carry just 1 bottle, just to use the bottle for like Tailwind or Hammer drinks, that whatever they're going to be carrying. I think they carry goo at Javelina. And then I will keep my 2 liter pack full of ice water all times. So I'm working on my weight balance a little bit better, and got my salt under control. Also, I've been working on my core strength, which I think will help. And then just my overall fitness is better than last year. I've been cross-training a lot, putting in good miles every week. Not too much. I don't go crazy on the miles every week for many reasons. I don't have the time for it. But also, I think it doesn't suit me to do high mileage every week. I do balance it with biking and weightlifting. But I think I'm ready. I'm excited. Also this year, my brother Sam is also going to be out there. He's doing the 100K, but it's nice to, excuse me, it's nice to go out to the Phoenix area with another person and, share the experience. Because in ultras, I don't use crew and I don't use pacers. For one, I don't have many crazy friends that would like to do that anyways, but then the other reason is I just don't really believe in it. I like to do it on my own. So, but having said that, it is nice to, share the experience with my brother. I'll probably see him on the course some, and we're staying at the same place together. So I'm excited about that. That's 2 weeks out, and I will, as we get closer to the Javelina 100, I may do a pre-race podcast. I'll keep everyone updated. Okay, let's dig into what happened in the marathon scene this weekend. It was pretty exciting. Over the weekend, Eliud Kipchoge broke the 2-hour mark with his running of 1:59:30, I believe it was. The first person to ever break 2 hours in the marathon. Now, Eliud Kipchoge is a very accomplished marathoner. He's done very well in several Olympic Games, and he currently holds the world record in the marathon, which he set in September 16th, 2018 with a 2:01:39. Now, this is his second attempt. One may say that it's just a spectacle. They put on basically the perfect circumstances for him to break 2 hours. He was wearing the new Nike Percent shoes developed for him, and also his pacers. They set up a straight road in Vienna, which had a turnaround. I believe they did 4 laps. The weather conditions were perfect. The pacing team, I saw a picture of them. It looked like about 30 of them, and it was the who's who in running supporting this event. And if you can imagine, when he was running, there was basically like a V of runners, pacers in front of him blocking the wind. So it was the most clever drafting that I've ever seen. And so it is a way of cheating. Even in triathlon, drafting is on the bike is illegal, and so drafting is an advantage. Not only that, the pacers didn't have to follow their watch. Most pacers in major marathons, they have to constantly look at their watch, make sure that they're running the pace that they've promised to run in their segment of the race. Well, in this event, they had a car that was set to run 1:59:50, and it was in front of the pace team. And it was very cool. It had these green lasers shining on the ground, basically showing the pacers exactly where they needed to be all the time. So what does this do for them? Well, they can just run. They don't have to look at their watch. They don't have to worry about anything. So it was really the perfect situation, circumstances for running a really fast time. And that's what he did. He's a great guy. His attitude is just very inspiring, and when he was finishing, pointing to the crowd, and then after the marathon, basically telling the media that anybody can do anything that they want to do. Just a really inspiring guy, even though this was kind of a spectacle, and I personally would like to see someone break 2 hours in a real race. But I thought it was real exciting and pretty cool to witness. Other things in the marathon this weekend, we had the Chicago Marathon. It's a major, and we had a world record on the female side. Brigid Kosgei from Kenya. She ran a 2:14. That's amazing when you consider that most of the U.S. men, running 209, 210, that's considered, great. The female winner came in at 2:14. Now, in a way, it's a bit disappointing because the men, guys like Galen Rupp, DNF'd, and there were some good results from like Parker Stenson and some other, I'm forgetting their names, but they ran in the 209, 210 range. But, for me, I know people get angry by me saying this, but I still remember Ryan Hall running a 204.58 back in 2011. What's happened to the U.S. men? And I remember an interview with Ryan a few months back on a podcast, and he said they really don't push the envelope and take a risk like he used to. And I'm not an elite runner, but I think there's something to that. And, because we may be improving our times in the U.S., but we're not going to get any medals in the Olympics with running a, 209, 210. So, Galen Rupp and Ryan Hall really moved it to the next level. I think Galen Rupp ran like a 206, and Ryan Hall was, back 9 years ago running a 204. These fast times are possible, and I really hope that the U.S. men can turn it around and really improve their times. But seeing a world record on the female side was pretty exciting. Now, I know that some people say, well, her agent is also tied up with some athletes that are doing drugs and have been busted in the past, but I think we have to look past that. I think people just need to get out and run because, maybe some of that goes on, but we just need to improve because if you look at like the top women, some of the top women like Stephanie Bruce, she ran a PR 227. That's great, but you compare it to 214 and there's really a big gap to the winner. I like to see someone like Stephanie Bruce, which I think is really got a lot of grit and speed, and I believe she's 35 years old, just an incredible runner from 10K up to the marathon. I'd really like to see her go into ultra running. I've suggested it a few times on Ultra Media, no responses, but can you imagine her jumping into like the North Face 50? Amazing. Because, on the female side in the ultra running scene, there are some ladies that have that speed, like I think Ia Wang was in the 230s, Magna Boulet was in the 228, something like that, but that's a while back. And you see some of these road runners like Kara Goucher jumping into Leadville. She said it was very humbling, but she finished. And to see someone like Stephanie Bruce maybe jump in, some of these older ladies, not say older ladies, in their mid 30s, but in the running scene, I guess that's considered the older of the team, the older of the field, but still being very competitive with a lot of grit. I think they would do very good in ultra running. That's just my opinion. But let's see. Okay, XoSkin 4.0 men's max compression shorts, three-quarter length. I bought a pair during the last few weeks, and I got them in last week. They actually have a regular shorts and the three-quarter shorts. Actually, I preferred to buy the regular shorts, but I just couldn't get the color that I wanted. I guess they've been selling very well. So I went ahead and got the three-quarter shorts. What that means is it's kind of fits right. The seam goes down right above the knee, so it doesn't cover the knee. And it could be used for running or mountain biking. But I went out on a 15-kilometer run a few days ago, and they felt good. I wanted to check them see if I was going to have any issue with chafing, because I wore them without underwear, And that's kind of a big deal because on the website it doesn't tell you should you wear underwear or not wear underwear, because they don't have like a second liner like Nike shorts do or Solomon shorts do. So it's a little bit didn't really know. And I confirmed it yesterday. I sent a message to the XoSkin page on Instagram, and they confirmed to me that they should be worn without underwear, and that this short has been worn in a lot of 100-milers, and people have had no problem with chafing. So that was reassuring. I also witnessed the same thing during my 15-kilometer run. I didn't put any lube on. Usually when I go out for a run, I put some Vaseline on, in certain areas, but I didn't do it. I wanted to see exactly what was going to happen. Didn't have any chafing. Now, these are advertised are being seamless, but actually they do have a seam below the buttocks, and I was a little bit concerned whether that might cause some chafing, but it rides low enough where it doesn't cause any problems, because when you put a pair of shorts together, it's impossible to not have some seam, because just the way shorts are. And anyways, these their trademark is rapid dry copper, and basically it's a PTFE patented fibers. I know PTFE because in the electronics world, printed circuit boards, they also use PTFE. So this is a really good material, thermal properties, and just also widely available, so it's not expensive. And they have designed these shorts so that they have air channel ducts and also sweat traps. They're so small that, you're looking at the shorts, you can't really see it. And when they've designed the shorts, they have 3D body wrapped. So what that means is it really fits to your body. When I took this out of the package, my first thought was, how am I going to put these on? I bought large, which is set up for 34 to 36. I'm probably really a 33, but I'm always worried about getting something too small. A medium is from 31 to 33. I'm probably somewhere in between, but the large fits fine. But I pull these out of the bag and they look so small. I was thinking, how in the world am I going to get these shorts on? But sure enough, they really stretch and form to your body. It takes a few minutes to put them on, but once you get them on, they're very comfortable, and they're tight enough where they don't slip off when they get wet. They do get wet from sweat, but they don't slip down, and the fit is really good. The only issue I ran into is I got a little bit of flab on my belly, and the short really rides up a little bit too high. And what I did was I kind of folded over the top of the shorts, and they work fine. I think if someone had a flat belly or six-pack or something, they probably wouldn't have a problem there, but I just fold it over there, and I think that will work fine for me because I use a Ultraspire waist light. So that extra material there will help me protect my body from the trail light, because having a trail light, usually what I do is I put my shirt under it, but you tend to get very hot that way. So I'm going to use my shorts to be under the trail light to protect from chafing. They also claim that they're anti-odor. I don't know if that's true or not yet. I did hand wash them after my first run and hang them to dry, and because I plan to use them in an upcoming race. But overall, very happy with them. The cost, they're about $75. There are some discount codes out on some of the bigger podcasts, so it's pretty easy to get a hold of one. You can save up to 20%, so I suggest you look into that. My take on the XoSkin shorts, they seem to be a very good product, and I plan to use them in Javelina 100, and that's my personal opinion. I had to pay for them, and I'm not sponsored or an ambassador for XoSkin, but I suggest you check them out. Also, I on a different product. I also bought some new Injinji socks. I've been using them for years. You're probably wondering, why don't you use XoSkin socks? Well, I just haven't tried them yet. I've been very happy with Injinji socks, so I've been sticking with them. The thing about Injinji socks, though, is if you go to REI, you can only buy the regular road socks and the trail socks. The trail socks are good for 10, 20, 30K, but I like the ultra version of the Injinji socks, and REI stopped selling those. So I went to the Injinji website and I bought some new ultra version and the crew and also the shortcut, and they came in, so I plan to use those in Javelina too. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any discount codes for Injinji socks. If you do know one, please send me an email at runnerrwe@gmail.com and I'll share that with everyone, but they seem to be not giving out discount codes. Okay, the last thing, a few things I want to talk about is something I listened to on the Morning Shakeout podcast by Mario Frioli. He had Steve Jones on the podcast. Steve Jones is a legend in running. He focused on the marathon and was a competitive for many years. He became famous back in 1984 when he set the world record for the marathon in the Chicago Marathon with a 2:09. And, that's interesting because, this guy would have been competitive today with those kind of times. And he's run, faster than that. I think he got down in the 2:07 range. But, back then, running was very simple. As he calls it, simplified running. This is a coach that believes that stretching is not needed. Ice baths and all these other gimmicks that we have today are a waste of money and not needed. You just need to get out there and run and work really hard for it. And I thought it was very interesting listen, and I learned a lot. He talks about consistent running, and as I always say, which I learned from Tosh on the Crooked Butterfly podcast. That guy's a real badass former Marine captain. He always says it's easier to keep up than catch up. And what does that mean? It means be consistent. If you work at it every day, if you try to catch up, it takes a lot of effort. And the Steve Jones is right on talking on the same path. He's got been around for over 30 years in running and coaching and at the competitive level, and he broke it down. It just boils down to really working hard, putting in the effort, and you will succeed. And being competitive, racing all the time is very important. Today these elites are doing 2-3 marathons a year. They've just kind of lost that real strong fight for to win, in his opinion, and it all made sense to me. Some other things exciting. I ordered some new hats for Javelina 100. My brother and I will be wearing them. They're black and red. They say Mile 62 podcast on them. I should have them before the race, and we'll both be wearing them during the race and before and after. So if you see us out at the Javelina 100, give us a shout. We'd like to meet you, and we're always looking for people to interview for the podcast. We're excited about it. The Javelina is a big party in the desert, and I had a great time last year, and I really look forward to it this year. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I can be found on Instagram at RunnerRWE, on Twitter at RunnerRWE, and then Strava, it's Richard, host of the Mile 62 podcast. You can also find me with my running group, Mile 62 running group on Strava. And I encourage you to join that group if you like. We do local runs in the Texas area, but we also plan meetups at races that we go to out of town. So, like after Javelina, we got Bandera coming up in January. We're happy to help and and give our feedback and advice to anybody coming to Texas for the first time. We welcome you. We've run Bandera several times. We know that race very well, and we know that a lot of runners come from other areas because it's a golden ticket race. This year it's going to be very exciting. It's sponsored by Hoka, and I think the turnout will be very big. There'll be a bunch of elites coming to town for the race, but there are a huge group of mid and back of the pack runners like myself, and it's just a big party, and it's a great venue. So we welcome you to Texas. I welcome feedback and questions. Please, if you'd like something that we can talk about in a future podcast as a topic, or if you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer your questions. And if you like, I can also discuss it on a future podcast. Send me an email at runnerrwe@gmail.com. And if you would, please leave a review on iTunes or Google Podcasts, and it really helps me get traction and really get my podcast out there so other people can find it. I do this for fun, and hope you enjoy it. Like I always say, it's easier to keep up than catch up, and you must become comfortable being uncomfortable, which means push yourself in your training, but be happy doing it. It's important. Most of us do this as a hobby, and it should be a hobby. Have fun, but don't get too stressed out about it. You need to make sure that your goals align with what's possible. But enjoy your running. Have a good week, and stay tuned for the next podcast. Thank you.